Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Recruitment, selection, skill formation, and redeployment concerns in running organizations. As you can see, the sequence of recruitment, selection, skill formation, redeployment is nearly the full cycle of an organization. When one looks at the need of human resources, then it is fairly obvious that you can't get human resources into the system unless you recruit them. And once you have recruited them, there will be the issues of selection from them for placement, manpower allocation, and indeed taking to superior positions, which will have as its concomitant action the organization facilitating skill formation to discharge the organizational tasks. And inevitably, as organizations change, there will be need for redeployment. We will take a selective view of these four areas and try to correlate it to the functioning of organizations. This slide shows to you what recruitment is about. It is the process of attracting sufficient number of individuals with right skills at an appropriate time to apply for open positions within the organization. Recruitment, therefore, is with reference to the supply side. And the first act is to get sufficient people interested. To get sufficient people interested, it is necessary to recognize that the institution has to be attractive enough to get people to apply. So some of them have gone and created recruitment attraction positions, or people who are responsible for attracting people, and such individuals carry out a profile search, and they reach out to individuals asking them if they would be interested in joining the organization, and they have the requirements of the organization in mind, and the recruitment process begins by an initial conversation of half an hour. And such individuals who undertake these tasks are often termed as consultants, manpower attraction consultants. You can clearly see that organizations have moved forward in their own architecture and activities in many, many ways. Some of them were not so well known till about a decade ago. In other words, all one is saying is this business of recruitment has been raised almost to a level of specialization, and there is now literature being produced on what appeared to be fairly commonsensical not so long ago on how to advertise, and there are books being written not just on how to face interviews, but indeed how to conduct interviews, which is not a day too soon, because not everyone who sits on a panel knows how to conduct an interview. And that requires specialized skills as much as the next act. Therefore, getting literature on the subject would be an important ingredient in creating the wherewithal of delivery for recruitment. Recruitment also requires to look at the labor supply analysis, the availability of workers with the required skills, and to meet the firm's labor demand. It is the availability of workers which is the tricky part. Those who are good are already employed, and those who are available may be substandard. Then there is a recruitment cost, and recruitment costs are very heavy. They touch everything from advertisement to people being paid to travel to get to the interview, payment of the selection panel for their sitting charges, and then the costs which may be incurred to make joining an attractive proposition, including incurring relocation expenses. The labor supply analysis therefore helps the positioning of the labor market so far as the organization is concerned. Collateral with labor supply analysis is the labor demand analysis, and many workers and organizations have this labor demand analysis as an integral part of its activity, because this is a subset of manpower planning, and we'll be talking of manpower planning in course of time, but one has to understand how many workers the organizations will be needing in future, which therefore has a natural flow to human resources planning, and the process to ensure right amount and the right kind of people to deliver a particular level of output or services is an integral part of human resources, but more of that later. A key role of human resources is to align performance within roles with the strategy. Each role cannot be an autonomous variable. Each role must be able to contribute more to the organization than what it receives in terms of salaries and perks. If it doesn't, then the organization is not going to be in a good shape. Now, therefore, the alignment of roles with strategy is an integral part of human resources activity, and therefore, recruitment of the right people is essential for keeping the organization healthy. Now, the definition of a right person is a complex one. It begins first and foremost with getting a right kind of a human being. The argument is very simple. You can't have a right professional without the right human being. Human beings which are prone to jealousy, disrupting others' careers, performance, wanting attention all the time, wanting primacy all the time, incapable of teamwork, are clearly not the people who will be able to organize activities constructively and help to the growth of the organization. Therefore, first and foremost, one must be the right kind of a human being. Then one must be the right kind of a professional. He must not only be state of art, but should be capable of growing, should be capable of getting on with others, should be a learning person, should have the organizational commitments right, and the list is long. So getting the right people doesn't stop at getting the right professional. The right professional at the right level for the right tasks. Otherwise, there may be internal rebellion, if not internal mutiny. The corporate world is full of stories of an entire group of people who moved away when some boss was inducted who couldn't handle them. Therefore, right people for the right role depends on how it is defined in terms relating to the performance to achieve the strategy. The ability to define a role is an OD effort. Again, there are a lot of deficiencies there because a lot of organizations do not define a role clearly. And their inability to define a role clearly creates tremors, ripple effects, spread effects all over. This problem can partly be solved by criterion-related behavior or creating benchmarks for performance, which can be broadly referred to as competencies. Now, in an environment such as India, there are various difficulties in understanding competencies. In fact, there are a lot of people whose minds are so modulated that they can think only in terms of contacts, relationships, networks. And the assumption is that competencies can be relegated to the background. If you know the right person at the right time, in the right place, your task will be done. Let me give you two examples which substantiate the point. There are children in every family. And admission of children to schools and colleges is one of the biggest challenges which the Indian families face. In fact, in a social conversation the other day, I was told by somebody who is an expert in the marketing function that the total budgetary allocation and expenditure for advertisements in India on educational institution is second only to the total budgetary allocation and utilization of funds on cosmetics. And therefore, advertisement of educational institutions is one of the most going propositions in terms of revenue generation for the media. Now, that's the indicator to say the kind of market which exists for educational institutions. So, when a child has to be admitted at the age of 3 or 4, and now you are supposed to send your children first to lower KG, then upper KG. I'm surprised they haven't thought of an age to send people to educational institutions even prior to lower KG. And when I mentioned that, somebody in a half sarcastic tone, and what do you think nursery schools or play schools are about? So I don't want to enter that debate, but the larger point I want to make is the first question which elders ask when the admission of a child is due: who knows the principal? Now, from the word go, the focus is on who knows whom to get a task done. I haven't heard very many serious discussions on the type of competencies, the type of propensities, which is there in that person who is to be admitted, and which is the school or the institution which is best capable of developing that competency or that propensity or that potential. So we reach a sad conclusion that the recognition for the need of competencies today in India is not seen as a first priority. Now, this is a bigger tragedy which can be imagined. If the entire focus is on contacts, and the sorry tale doesn't stop there. After contacts, there is a search for privileges which can be asked for, fought for, and obtained in terms of preferences. And the story again doesn't end there. After you have exhausted contacts, after you have exhausted the preferential logic of getting in, then you seek leveraging through what is euphemistically called donations. It's not for me to discuss the merits of this kind of a situation and what it leads to. One can't spend time exploring the logic of the pernicious. But the point to be made is, in such an environment, if the criteria-related behavior or standards of performance are going to be the touchstone of recruitment, then there is a misfit on preparation of individuals for careers and the requirement of careers. That's the point I'm trying to make. Competencies can be used to provide the behavior needed at work to achieve the business strategy and enable organizations to form a model of the kind of employee it wishes to attract through recruitment. Let me spell it out again in a slow pace so that you know what I'm saying. Competencies can be used to provide the behaviors needed at work to achieve the business strategy and enable organizations to form a model of the kind of employee it wishes to attract through recruitment. If you have a model before you, it's easier to know where you want to get. So personnel specifications may contain stereotypes of the ideal person, but the use of competencies allows organizations to free themselves from stereotypes, and that's an additional advantage of looking at competencies. Recruitment and selection has a flow diagram. This flow diagram puts it in a manner which conveys the flow in an operational manner. The internal factors, the external factors, job analysis. The three are inputs to human resources planning. Human resources planning involve staffing needs, which means options will be both internal and external, and that will lead to recruitment. It will not only lead to recruitment, but the next step which then follows, acquiring a pool of applicants, and the pool of applicants then lead on to selection and job performance, which again lead back to job analysis, and so the cycle continues. So this is the recruitment and selection flow. What are the issues in recruitment? If you would go through it, then I will go back and explain it after a while. The slide begins with a self-evident position of human resources planning needing additional labor, and walks through different techniques of outsourcing, contingent labor, part-time employees, and overtime to focus on different forms in which labor can be acquired, from part-time labor to overtime by existing employees. In fact, issues in recruitment also cover situations which have to do with the changing demographic profile. Take the case of India. There are two arguments which are being made. Since a very large number of the population in this country is below 30, and the figure is put anywhere from 30 to 40%, and that's open to debate, but let's not get into that. If a substantial part of the population is below 30, or more realistically, the percentage population below 30 is higher in India than the percentage population below 30 in Japan or Europe, then India has a demographic dividend, because this workforce will be there longer and therefore should be more productive. Now, palpably a populist argument, because the argument which is missing is it is a demographic dividend only and only when it is a capable demographic segment. If you can neither employ them nor do they have skills which are employable, then how is a demographic dividend? This is one consideration. The second consideration is, by and large, it is realized that longevity has gone up. If longevity has gone up, and an average male is living to be as old as 65 in India, and there are any number of people more than 65 which are really living on borrowed times, what is the channelization of conversion of the talent and energy of the senior population to productive use? The age of retirement in the government hasn't dramatically changed. In fact, the truth is the age of retirement in many of the universities also hasn't dramatically changed. In many states, university teachers are still retiring at 58, 60. And there's no likelihood of that changing. If that is so, where is the correlation between the so-called demographic dividends and the requirements of the workplace? And if one focuses entirely on the workplace, the chances of finding talent in strategic and core sectors of national development are poor. Take, for example, the education sector. Take, for example, the age factor. Or you can take the bureaucratic component of this country's decision-making process. By and large, retirement from the government is far quicker than it is, say, in the private sector. So where will the senior talent be found? And if the senior talent is migrating to the private sector, where is the talent available for the governmental or the developmental sector? And if the answer is you will hire the younger people, then some question needs to be asked on what is the level of skill formation of those below 30 and what is the real productive use they can be put into. And if the answer is there are A-grade global level organizations in this country, and always the references to IIMs, IITs and what have you, well, maybe then a question asked. What part of the outgoing talent from these institutions is found A, in the government, or for that matter even in the public sector? What percentage of new recruits, how many or what percentage of the new recruits are merely two sides of the same coin, from prestigious institutions are found seeking employment in the public sector as compared to those who go to multinationals, those who migrate abroad, those who go to the private sector, and indeed, what is the sector in which talent is flowing? The issues of recruitment are almost synonymous, almost, not quite, with the core issues of developmental planning. The broad range of issues in developmental planning will have a lot to do with resources, sustainability, energy uses, what have you. But then, talent availability, acquisition, retention, development will be one of the central issues of developmental policy planning. So when one is talking of issues in recruitment, and presumably in this course we are talking of issues of recruitment in the corporate sector, the larger proposition being sought to put across to you is that recruitment in the corporate sector is not an autonomous variable and has everything to do with the larger recruitment climate in the country. Therefore, it leads us to a consideration of how hiring of new employees should fulfill the long-term need of the organization. There again, there is a catch. The retainability of the individual today in an organization is a diminishing one. The bright, the talented have many characteristics of which many are of the view that job hopping is an integral one. Now let's go down the line to see what the derivative arguments and the propositions are. The cost of replacing supervisory, technical and management employees run from 50% to several 100% of their salaries. If this is the replacement cost, job hopping is a huge strain and drain on organizational resources. The strength of the economy and the labor market conditions significantly an organization's ability to attract top-level employees. The nature of the economy, the nature of the labor market impacts the ability to attract top-level employees. And by top level, it's not necessarily people at the top, but the best kind of employees. When the economy is strong, with little unemployment, organizations have to compete with other employers to attract skilled employees. When the economy is not strong, with substantial unemployment, organizations have still to compete with other employers to attract skilled employees. So in either case, the shortage of skilled employees is a definitive factor in recruitment. And if you have shortage of skilled employees, it holds to reason that there will be a premium on recruitment processes which are more market sensitive, which go an extra mile to select people, and therefore the ability to attract is not also the ability to draw people only, but the ability to attract is the ability to give to people the opportunity to grow, and the support you provide to growth. This requires, inevitably, increased compensation, benefits, incentives. The reverse is true in a soft economy, when high-level unemployment causes a situation where the challenge is of managing a huge number of applications to find a new potential good hires. You advertise any position, the number of applicants is enormous. I received a call today The details obviously need not be shared, from somebody who was involved or who is involved in recruitment of the CEO of a technical university. In other words, the vice chancellor of a technical university. And for one position, there are 47 applicants. And he was telling me that for purposes of shortlisting, he is having to use several very arbitrary criteria, but there is no option because the ratio of 1:47 of selection clearly will not work. The issue doesn't end there. Even if you widened the ratio between the openings available and the candidates available, the actual number of quality candidates continue to be deficient at any level. As the processes grow, all round, in everywhere, recruitment all processes have also undergone a substantial change. Today, recruitment is very often following internet networks. Which means what? The paper applications are being done away with. People are being contacted and people are responding online. Of course, there are advantages of such a situation. They are listed here. They are inexpensive. You save word of advertisement, therefore you save expenses. These are quick and easy for posting announcements. Responses arrive faster and in greater quantity. Will generate a wider range of applicants. Applicants can be screened by a computer. Some selection tests can be administered by the computer. And there is automated applicant tracking. It is one of the basic laws of life that as costs go up, very often the options go up. So you heard me talk of the escalation of recruitment costs. Now you hear me talk of the options which are emerging, which make internet recruitment a economical proposition with wider reach and deeper penetration into the supply side. But the disadvantages are the ease of submission will result in a lot of applicants, many of whom are not qualified. So the ease is a double-edged sword. May take more human resources department's time to sort through the greater quantity of applicants. The other problem is that recruitment then becomes synonymous with comfort with the electronic medium. And given the poor penetration of computers in the supply side, there may be candidates who do not have access to applying online because they have grown up in a non-computerized environment, in areas where ICT penetration is low, but are otherwise very capable people and are essentially growing people. They may be lost because of this precondition. After all, applying for a job is not applying for a visa. You can make visa available through internet, and people who don't know the front of a computer to a back of a computer will still apply for a visa electronically, because they will hire somebody to do so. In fact, it may be the opening of a whole new profession where you'll find people sitting with a laptop or a keyboard with others lining up to send their applications in any mode. But that apart, making it merely an e-mode of application for recruitment means that you have already funneled your supply channel to focus only on those people who have those skills, and those skills may not be necessarily synonymous with the skills which the organization requires. Then there are concerns for recruitment for diversity. It is now increasingly realized that workforce should have a suitable gender mix. The workforce have a suitable distribution of the ethnic groups of the community in which the organization is embedded. And diversity is a very enriching phenomenon. A diverse workforce enhances creativity and may facilitate expansion into global markets. Now again, this business of global markets is being emphasized and re-emphasized and emphasized in a manner which we seem to believe that all markets are global. There is nothing in the economic order which establishes this. In fact, the global markets which are referred to are merely markets of the English-speaking world. And then this is confused with the power of English. Of course, English is a powerful language, and of course, English has a range in different parts of the world, from USA to Australia. But the language itself opens up economic opportunities in only different parts of the world. Believe me, English does not open up economy for you in France, in Germany, in Russia, in Brazil, in Argentina. In Congo, in Mongolia. And these are very much parts of this planet. In fact, the mileage which one gets out of learning Mandarin is any day larger than the mileage which you'd get in business dimension or by learning English. But then these becomes self-feeding slogans, and I do not wish to get into it. But the argument that a diverse workforce enhances creativity and may facilitate expansion into the global market is an argument which can be both supported and argued with. It is for you to take a position, and I'm not going to get into that debate. Recruitment must generate applicants from a wide variety of individuals, and this is a valid statement. The variety of individuals enriches an organization. Organizations should train the recruits to use objective standards.